What's good, ladies and gents? Welcome to the MKO Pugilism Boxing channel where we talk all things boxing. Remember to like and subscribe, and of course hit the bell notification, put it on all so you can get notified of all the latest content on the channel as and when it drops. So let's get into this one. So got a bit of news now regarding Chris Eubank Jr. He's been in a bit of boxing headlines of late. Of course, he's got the fight upcoming against Conor Benn. Latest on that is that there's been this dispute about rehydration clauses. I believe they haven't put a number out there in terms of what they're limiting Chris Eubank Jr. to rehydrate to, but from what I understand, that is the stumbling block at the moment in that fight versus Conor Benn. It seems like both parties are quite happy to have the fight, but I believe on the Matchroom / sort of Conor Benn side of things, they want to put a rehydration clause for Chris Eubank, and Chris Eubank seems like he's resisting that. He doesn't want that rehydration clause. I can understand that because at the end of the day, when you fight, you already, presumably, you make the weight and you don't want to worry about anything else. After that, you want to be strong in the fight. And I think when you do a rehydration clause and limit it by a certain number, it can weaken the fighter. And I think I think it was Chris Andrade said that, and Hatman as well, that basically it's more dangerous for the guy that's the bigger guy coming down to a certain weight and then having a limit in terms of how he can rehydrate than it is for the smaller guy who's sort of coming up in weight. So the smaller guy is going to be strong, he's not going to be drained, he's going to be coming up in weight, he can eat as much as he wants, and it's more of a chilled thing for him. But for the bigger guy, there's a bigger danger there because he's the one that's draining, he's the one that's pushing his body to come down in a weight, whereas the smaller guy is going up. So he's not gonna have as much danger as far as his body is concerned. Of course, fighting a bigger guy, but if it's with these rehydration clauses, you're fighting sort of a weakened bigger guy. So anyway, that's what's going on. They're going back and forth a bit about this. Jake Paul chimed in recently and said, he said, don't get on Conor Benn for this rehydration clause. Conor Benn wants a fair fight, pretty much, words to that effect. So he was sort of supporting Conor Benn in his tweet, saying that, don't get on Conor Benn about rehydration clauses. It's the same with me and Hasim Rahman Jr. Hasim Rahman Jr. just has to weigh 200 pounds. He can weigh what he weighs on fight night. All Conor Benn wants is fairness. And, that's what he said. That was his point. Then Chris Eubank Jr. didn't take him long to chime in. Eubank Jr. chimed in and responded to Jake Paul and said, okay, Jake, how about once I'm done with Ben and you're done with Rahman Jr., why don't we go a few rounds? So he's offered Jake Paul a fight, and he said, why don't we go a few rounds and then the winner will get Canelo? And I think that in a sense that's a bit far-fetched. That's a bit of it's one of those where, I don't know, he's just sort of attaching his name to this for, for money. It seems that he's just sort of interested in money fights, which nothing wrong with that. He's a prize fighter, but when it comes to the part about Canelo, it's almost like I think he's got to be joking when he talks about Canelo, because Canelo, as we can see by his career trajectory, he's just interested in sort of greatness. He's interested in real, genuine fights and real, genuine challenges. So a fight like the Jake Paul or Creed, he's not interested in those. They don't have anything he wants. We see by him going to light heavyweight, becoming a world champion up there, fighting Bivol up there, getting beaten. So with Canelo, he's looking for actual legacy fights. He's looking to do big things in the real world of boxing. He's not just chasing money. He's about the legacy and about the real competition in boxing, fighting Triple G again. So I think by Chris Eubank Jr. saying that, he's got to be tongue-in-cheek, got to be joking when he talks about the Canelo part. He also said, prior to saying the winner gets Canelo, he said basically that, I'm going to weigh in at 160, you weigh what you want to weigh, And I'm not no Tommy Fury. I'm a man of my word. If I say I'm going to do something, it's going to get done. So he mentioned all that, said, yeah, why don't me and you go a few rounds? You then had Hassim Ratman Jr. stepping in and saying, buddy, I'm going to ruin your plan. So Hassim Ratman Jr. replied to Chris Eubank Jr. and said, look, I'm going to ruin your plans. You're not going to get to fight Jake Paul because I'm going to beat him, sort of thing. And then today, another one chimed in, and that was Demetrius Andrade. And Demetrius Andrade chimed in with his own video, his own 2 cents on this whole back and forth between Chris Eubank, Jake Paul, Conor Ben, all this. And of course, Conor Ben chimed in too and said, you're not going to be able to fight after I've beaten you. You know, I'm going to finish your career. Then Demetrius Andrade chimes in and says, on a video he made himself, he said that, look, Chris Eubank Jr., we offered you $1 million, we offered you this much amount, and you still didn't want to fight. He just called Chris Eubank Jr. out and said, look, we offered you $1 million to take me. Don't do that with these stupid YouTubers and all this stuff. He goes, come and fight me, get this money, feed your family, blah, blah, blah. So Demetrius Andrade also stepped in and he called out Chris Eubank Jr. and said, look, let's fight, let's get it on. Forget this circus show, forget this YouTube thing and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, fight me. He goes, you've been offered this before, the fight for the WBO title, the WBO super title. Let's have it, me and you, let's fight. So, yeah, it's a lot of people chiming in on this. We'll have to look out for news on what happens next. I mean, I think obviously it's going to be, by the sounds of things, it's going to be Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Ben. I don't think there hasn't been an official announcement, but both parties are talking positively. Once they sort this rehydration clause, I think that's what we're going to see next. But let me know in the comment section what you think about Demetrius Andrade's call out, because me personally, I think of all these fights, of all these potential ones, to me that makes the most sense. I think the Jake Paul thing is just a money grab on Eubank Jr.'s part. That just kind of shows that sort of thing is kind of in poor taste, really, because at the end of the day, you know, you're in boxing, you're a boxer. He's talked over the years about wanting to fight Triple G, believing he can beat Triple G, wanting to get all the belts, and he's been talking about he wants the guys with the belts several years ago, but now it just seems like he's just getting the fights that probably will garner the most money. I can't blame him when it comes to Jake Paul in a sense, because at the end of the day, I suppose if you're going to make the most money fighting a YouTuber and, you know, you're not really bothered what boxing people think, you're not bothered about what the fans might think or whatever, you're just bothered about, well, I can fight this guy and make a bigger purse than I would fighting anybody else, but I can't blame you for taking that opportunity. It's, as a boxing fan, I'm not into that. I think he should probably just stick to fighting the boxing guys like Andrade and the other sort of champions that are out there, the top guys that are out there in middle or super middleweight. That's what he should be doing. But I can sort of understand the idea that, yeah, we're gonna get money. So yeah, let me know what you think about this. All these different call outs, and until next time, it's MKO Pugilism over and out.